JHK here for the AllStar. Joining right now from California is UFC welterweight Dwight Grant. Dwight, good to see your face, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. Good to see you too.
For sure, man. How is San Diego, man? Is the lockdown affecting you anymore?
No, not so much. I mean, it's been pretty open. Hasn't been any restrictions that I've seen. I've had to put a mask on a couple times going to the stores, but other than that, I've been pretty good.
Like you said, everything's back to normal. Let's go back to UFC 261 last April. Your last fight, you got the win, split decision. After the
Yeah.
fight, you expressed some disappointment. Looking back at that fight now, what is your assessment of your performance?
Oh yeah. I was upset because I wanted to trade. It's like I came in there like with a complete ideal that I'm gonna like throw some fists in there. It's gonna be like some good stuff. And I feel like I was just chasing my opponent a lot, and I didn't have an answer for it. And the thing about it is too is like the way I look at it, the opponent's job is to survive the fight and try to win. You know what I mean? Like that's my opponent's job. He has to try to win. I shouldn't expect him, to stand there and do what I want to do, but I should be able to force him to do what I want to do. And I didn't have a way of doing that in that fight because for some reason, I never expected this guy was going to back up. Yeah, and that's why, especially after the fight, I was like, man, like I should be able to finish this guy. This fight lasted 5 rounds. Sorry, I'm sorry, 3 rounds, and it was a split. You know what I mean? Like that really upset me, and I was trying not to sound too down because I won, so I don't want to be like sound like ungrateful. And I'm happy I was able to get the win, but then at the same time, it's like, man, I want to knock this guy out. So this is like it was a little mixed bag of emotions right there.
So I saw that in the fight, it seemed like you hurt your leg. Was that anything serious?
Oh yeah, I tore some fibers in my hamstring. I kind of messed it up a little bit before, and I was like, I'm like, all right, I'll be fine. And going into the fight, I knew to be careful of it, and that was fine too. And the crazy part about it is, like, once I started fighting, I was like, I thought about like half, a second, like, yeah, I'm good. And then there's one moment where like he bumped into me with his shoulder, and I was sliding backwards, and I put my foot down, and I was like, right away, you're like, oh man, you know, and that was the only thing. I mean, right afterwards, I started doing rehab for it, and I got a MRI and stuff like that. It was just a small tear. It's not like it was like really really bad, any surgery or anything, thank God. But I had to baby it for a while, and I spent a lot of that time thinking about the fight, thinking about how to improve, thinking about like what would make me stand out for myself. How could I like further the distance between the person that fought in that fight in April and the one that has to fight in the next fight. And that's what I've been focusing on, for the past couple months.
Yeah, before we dig into that, how many surgeries have you had throughout your career as an athlete?
It's only two, I think.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's not too bad.
there- yeah, it's not so bad. I mean, it's only one from directly from a fight from a fight was when I tore my bicep. But other than that, like it's nothing bad. Like grace of God, I've been able to avoid most injuries and stuff like that. And most of it usually happens when I get injured from sparring. It's not really from it's not really from fighting. Yeah. So I've taken sparring back a notch in the last like year or so, and I think I've been doing pretty well because of that.
Do you feel the effects of that? Like the positive effects of not sparring as much, not sparring as hard throughout camps or even out of season?
Yeah, for sure. I really wish that I could go back in time and tell like my 18 and 19-year-old self to put on shin guards, and and a headgear, all that stuff. Because and not even because of like anything I feel right now, but I just think like, man, like it was so unnecessary. It was so much ego and bravado, and it felt good. You watch a couple like K1 matches or something like that, and then you go into the gym, he's good, and it was cool, but it's like, it really was unnecessary. It was dangerous. And then like I promoted that kind of lifestyle to the fighters underneath me in the gym to do this. Yeah, if you need to wear shin guards, you hit yourself in the shin with a stick for a while, you'll be fine. Like that kind of attitude. And also looking at my some of my fights I had, amateur fights, especially amateur Muay Thai matches, I'm just fighting in gloves. There's no shin guards, there's no headgear. So basically what's happening is it's a pro fight, but nobody's getting paid. You know what I mean? And that's another thing where I feel like I like the ideal of it. And I wanted it so bad because that's what I thought it should be. But at the same time, now looking back, there is a level of I guess trepidation, and telling people that to go out and do that again, like go fight without shin guards or fight without headgear, because I think you need to be able to do that to gain the experience and confidence you need to be able to fight at a pro level and not be like scared and like, oh, jittery all the time, because you went through the level of being accustomed to seeing somebody with yellow shin guards kicking at your face, you know what I mean, for like a whole year, and now you fight somebody with no shin guards on, and you're comfortable blocking the kick and like, like countering punches properly because you have that protection. You ease your way into it. I feel a lot of people want to rush into that, spotlight of I'm a pro fighter, and this, me too, you know. But I spent a lot of times amateur, and when I turned pro, the first thing I said to my friends was like, "It feels like the same thing because we don't have shin guards and headgear on, so it's like almost the same feeling." And because of that, I feel like the only positive was I wasn't as afraid, But then the negative was like, man, I got injured mad times, so many fingers and twisted and hand broken and like like for what, So that's the only thing.
Well,
No,
it's all part of building up, and I guess you take your experiences and hand it down to the next generation, the good parts.
yeah. Well, you see like how like Max Holloway, he was saying he didn't spar and he was going into the fight looking amazing. You know what I mean? And everybody's experience is different. You have to work with the resources you have. Also. So you might not have people around you that are able to push you in that way. And the only way they know how to is to make you spar all out. I mean, that would probably work for them, like you're saying. The next generation gets it, and then it's going to work for you. But I think there's a point where, especially if you get to like a high level gym, where people should know, like, hey, we don't have to spar every single day, you know, especially not for this level where nobody has fights coming up and everybody just kind of having a good time sparring. Let's play around a little bit. Let's have some fun. That doesn't involve like people get knocked out in a shouting match afterwards. It's like so that's right.
Yeah, definitely. Now you mentioned that you were recovering and it made you think about the fight. You get back into the gym. What did you focus on? Did you continue working on something else that was going to further your skill set?
Oh yeah, first of all, like yeah, injury with the hamstring is weird because like any other movement you do, you kind of irritate it, So I spent a lot of time sitting down, icing it, and trying to heal as quickly as possible. In that time, I watched more tape and more videos and fighting stuff than usual, And I was noticing like a lot of the strikers, a lot of the best strikers in the world have like really good grappling, and they're not afraid to use it, Like I learned how to wrestle. I actively sought out learning in the field of wrestling, for a long time and grappling as well. But then when I fight, I'm like, I don't want to win by submission. Like that's my attitude, and it's like a weird attitude to have because now I'm limiting myself in what I can do. If you watch that the last fight, in the beginning of it, I faked the takedown. Like I went low, and the guy looked at me like, "Come on, like you're not gonna do that." You know what I mean? And it was true. It was just a fake, But since that fight, I worked on my grappling a lot, like a lot, making sure I'm able to be on the ground and feel comfortable because it's just another form of the fight. It's not like when I was like a kid and I'm fighting and I'm like, oh man, I'm on the ground, man. Oh man, he took me down, and like I know this is gonna be like 3 minutes of me struggling to get back up. Now, like I can fight on the ground, and I've done it. And I went to and trained with some of the best guys. I trained at this place, Atos Gym over here, with some of the best grapplers in the world. And man, they're good. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I'm doing pretty good. I should have more confidence in my grappling. And even though I don't really want to use it like primarily, I shouldn't be afraid to. Yeah. So that's been the biggest difference. And it's showed in my sparring. Even when I spar guys who are great grapplers, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like whatever you do, I'm gonna be able to counter you anyway. And it'll be more advantageous to me in the end. And that's I think really been the biggest difference between me now and a few months ago.
Atos, that's Andre Galval's gym in San Diego.
Yeah,
Okay. Have you
yeah.
rolled? Did you get some rolls in with him?
Oh no, not yet.
Okay.
That'd be
He's a
that'd be pretty awesome.
monster.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it too is like I didn't really know, as much until I was like, oh man, my friends started telling me. I was like, man, it's funny. Like I'm glad I know now, But it's funny how like you go places and train and you don't know that this guy is really good, and then you're like, oh snap, what's going on? Yeah, so I didn't get trained with him. I trained a lot of other guys at the gym, and like it was really cool, man. They're really gracious. They really helped me out a lot. Gave me a lot of good pointers and some of that, and explain things afterwards. They didn't just like try to rough me up and be like, "I get out of here." It was like, "Hey, this is why, that is why." Man, so it really helped me out a lot.
I guess like training your grappling and your submissions and all that opens up your striking. And that's at the end of the day, that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like a guy, admire a lot, obviously Anderson Silva. Like I was watching a lot of his fights, and you see like he gets taken down, like he doesn't have like a 100% takedown defense, And even the fight with Chael Sonnen, because I remember they were talking about how it was the anniversary of it or whatever, and I was like, yeah, he got taken down a lot, you know. And he won that fight by submission. Like a submission offers that ability to you to like win all of a sudden, you know what I mean? And to get that. And you have to be comfortable enough to do it. You can't just be like, you know what, maybe I'll do submission. You haven't been training it. I mean, you might get lucky, depending on what it is, but it's a lot of nuances to take in consideration. Also, if you're being tired, what you can do, so it definitely opened up my striking a lot more where I'm just free to move without worrying about like, oh, this person might grab me and then I got to fight for my life because if I get taken down, you know what I mean? Like I'm on the ground suffering and crying and complaining to myself. Nah, and even with the same skill set, the difference in attitude will make a difference in breath. So when I'm on the ground, I'll be able to relax and breathe and escape as opposed to being like, and then get up and being like, oh my gosh, like I just went through like some kind of like hailstorm of fire and razor blades or something like that. And, and instead, I just hit the ground for a second. So I feel a lot more comfortable now.
You returned October 23rd. Word on the street is that Francisco Trinaldo was not your original opponent. How many changes have you gone through this camp?
He's my third opponent. Yeah, he's the
Damn,
third one.
man. Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's just COVID, right? Just the COVID era is just opponents are just you've been through it before, you know what I mean?
yeah. It's the thing about it too is I always feel like confident that I'm able to fight whoever. So it's I don't want to say like not being afraid of them because I'm not at like if they would have been like, oh, you gotta fight this guy, I'd be like, oh man, it's gonna be rough. 'Cause I do say that sometimes, like it's gonna be rough, it's gonna be a rough fight, but I'm gonna win. You know, uh, it's more along the lines of like, I believe in myself and I want to be challenged to some extent. So and I say to some extent because I'm like, yeah, I want to fight. I want to have a war every time I step into into the octagon and have like a fight for my life. But I do want to fight guys that I've heard about before and I've seen. So when I got a chance to fight this guy, I was, oh, I know who this guy is. And I was like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't fight 170. Why is he like, how is this possible? But at the same time, I'm really excited. So it's more along the lines of you know, feeling like I'm moving up, fighting somebody who has experience, and it'll be like a different experience for me.
Trinaldo, he's a 43-year-old savage, though. You know what I mean? He has some age on him,
Yeah,
but he's a savage, and he's been around the UFC for a long time. I was counting it up,
yeah.
24th fight. This one coming up for him.
Whoa,
That's
whoa.
crazy, right? And that's not even counting the Ultimate Fighter. So have
Oh
you been
man.
watching him through the whole time? Like, because I know he fought at 155. So usually you're not looking at guys below, the weight class.
Well, I'm a fan of the sport, so I'll watch stuff like all the time, and I watch I've seen a fight before a couple times. And the thing about it was originally when I used to watch him, I'd be like, man, this guy goes for it for sure, and he does. But as far as his age is concerned, the thing that's interesting about that is like you have to look no further than his last fight. This guy came up from 155 and fought Muslim Salikov, who's like one of the best strikers ever, and he went toe to toe with him for 3 rounds. Yeah, so a lot of people coming up to me saying stuff like, "Oh, this guy's no guy, man," and trying to, I guess, to give me confidence. But I'm like, I don't care if he's 100. Like, like if he fighting like that, it's gonna be like you gotta take this guy seriously. You can't like you can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna skip running today because this guy's 43, so he's not gonna fight. No, man, you gotta go extremely hard and be confident because otherwise you're gonna find yourself unprepared. And it doesn't matter who it is. If you take somebody lightly, you're gonna be in a world of hurt for sure. And I feel like I've beaten people before who I think were better fighters than me, but it doesn't take me seriously. I'm like, oh, I'll just fight this guy to kill time. And then I beat them because I could feel them disrespecting me in the range or like in the cardio area, whatever it is. I was able to pull it off. So yeah, I definitely I know who he is for sure. I've seen his fights, and I'm not taking him lightly at all. I'm giving him the best. Yeah, I mean, a version of me that's ever existed in life.
Yeah, the last couple of interviews that we've done, we've both talked to each other about your development and how you've, evolved throughout these camps. And sometimes you didn't even fight, but you still had the camp and you evolved. And
Yeah.
uh and I feel like you said, his last fight was against a striker. And do you see some similarities there, like with the matchup of his last opponent with you and him?
Oh, for sure, because like Sakov does Sanda, which is a form of kung fu, and I trained with a lot of Sanda guys before, and kung fu is like my base really, like Muay Thai is my is like one of my favorite arts ever, but it's not how like it's almost like kung fu is like my first language. When people show me something, I related to Kung Fu to figure out how I'm supposed to do it. Like, okay, this is like this, okay, this is like that. I don't relate to Muay Thai first. So I think there'll be some similarities in there, but because it's two totally different forms of it, it's going to be different for him. Like the timing won't be the same. The attacks that are dangerous won't be the same, and also, I grew up slapboxing, so it's a lot of different styles involved in terms of the hands than it's going to be with Solokov. So there's some differences there, but definitely similarities in terms of the approach.
So what do you see in this fight though? Do you feel like Trinaldo might try to take it to the ground, or do you feel like I don't know, man. He seems like he strikes first, man. Like he wants to stand and
Yes.
trade with you.
So this is the thing. I've been saying this. I said to my coaches too. Because this is been my experience in MMA. So I fight a guy. He's a striker. I fight a guy who's a grappler. Whatever it is, they might be aggressive in like the last 4 or 5 fights, attacking people in the first round, going all out. They fight me, and then like I hit them a couple times, and they start backing up, and then all of a sudden it's a grappling match. That might happen. And if that does happen, by the grace of God, I prepared for it. But what I expect, is for us to nod and fight in the middle of the ring until I finish him off. That's it. Like I don't expect it to be any quarter given him backing up and him being like, oh. I mean, for sure you're gonna change positions and stuff like that and try to like find better things. But man, it's like I really feel this should be an action-packed match where I don't have time to like lament about, oh man, this guy's backing up and this guy's not trying to fight me. Unless like I hurt him and he's trying to get away, which you can't blame the guy for. But other than that, it's gonna be leather and fist. It's not gonna be but it might not even seem tactical at some point, but it's gonna be entertaining for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's one thing. Both you guys are entertaining. Now, I wanted to go to this hilarious Instagram post that you put up, man. It's like the barbershop scene from Coming to
Oh,
America. Did you do
oh
all those
yeah.
voices for that video?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I've seen that scene like a million times. So like I know those voices really well.
Yeah, I was like one of the voices sounded like yours when I was watching the video, and I was like the other voices not so much, man. You did a pretty good job.
I mean, I've been doing that like for years in the house. Yeah. I like it's new to y'all, but my wife is like, man, shut up, man. You keep making all these strange noises in the room, you know. But I really like I mean comedy, it's like one of my favorite things, and even especially like after my last fight, but man, even after the fight that I had with D-Rod, like I came home, I was really upset, obviously, and one of the things that really made me feel better is I watched a lot of Bill Burr and a lot of like Chris Rock and like Dave Chappelle and stuff like that, and I was like really like what I mean, like able to take a nap. You know what I mean? Like I was so upset that I couldn't sleep, and it was like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then you listen to the guy tell some jokes, and like you can fall out. So that it's something that I always go to help me through camps and help me through like the fight pre and post. Yeah.
Is Chappelle your all time favorite?
All time, yeah, he has become. I think Eddie Murphy, I think, is my all-time favorite.
Mm,
But Chappelle has so many specials
yeah.
that it's hard for me to be like, what I mean, Eddie got two, but he has all those SNL stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's like, but he's really funny. He's a genius in his art. But I gotta say Chappelle, man, Chappelle, Chris Rock, what I mean, these are my guys. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't beat the Chappelle show, man. I don't think there's ever been any show that controversial and like edgy and funny at the
Yeah.
same time.
Well, Chris Rock had a show on HBO, and it was really good too. But I think with Chappelle, what made his show stand out a little bit more was just like the sheer number of skits, and then like the people he had involved. He had like Charlie Murphy involved, and then he had like I mean, a lot of great writers, Paul Mooney and stuff. Like it was so many. He wrote Richard Pryor and these guys. Like the it was comedy coming from so many angles, and it was like a great like Jay Z song. Like you can listen to it one time and enjoy the beat, another time enjoy the lyrics, and then like 10 years later and be like, oh, that's what he's talking about. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes it a classic. I referenced it yesterday, the day before yesterday. I referenced a skit from Chappelle's show. You know what I mean? Like it never goes away.
Yeah, Paul Mooney is all time favorite,
Yeah.
dude. That dude is hilarious. Like you can ask him any question and his response will be funny for anything. So I love it, man.
Yeah.
And you know that your show's big when they're bootlegging the seasons in Asia. Because I remember when I came here to Asia, I was like walking around and they're bootlegging Chappelle show and nothing else. There was no other comedy series out there, so you know it's big.
Man, that's amazing. I can only imagine like what it would be like to watch that show and then like what I mean? Like in a different language. You know what I'm saying? And not have some of the references. Like it's gotta be crazy. It gotta seem crazy for some extent. Like, what he's
Yeah.
talking about? What he's talking about? You know, who's this guy? I mean, it is with Rick James being such a big star over there to be to understand how crazy this skit is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you do have to know the references to understand like why it's funny. But there's some skits, man, I guess you don't know for real. Like if you didn't live in the States, then you would not understand.
Well, I used to watch a lot of like Japanese variety shows like on like not high school, but a little after high school and stuff like that. And I would think of some of the stuff as funny, but I didn't get the references. Yeah, I would just be like, ah, you know, there'll be one or two guys that reoccurring people that like are funny. And you see the translation, like, okay, this is funny, but like, you know, you don't really know that this guy was, you know, dating this person, and this is why it's funny because they have a history over here. You know what I mean? The extra stuff that kind of adds an extra like twist to the comment, like, oh, they shouldn't have said that. You know, so it's I can't imagine the difference, but hey, it's popular because it's so relatable in so many different ways. You know?
Now it's reverse. Everybody's talking about Squid Games. Have you seen it?
Oh, I'm on like the third or fourth episode. You know, and my friend told me to watch it because he was like, man, you know, you don't want to get spoiled, and I was like, cool, let me watch it right away as I get a chance. But then, well, I can't talk about anything. But I saw one of my favorite actors in there, and I was like, yeah, man, this is gonna be a great show. Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
Who's one of your favorite actors?
Oh, the guy from he was in well, I know him from a show, a old drama called Coffee, not Coffee Prince. Yeah, called Coffee Prince, like a
Okay.
long time ago. But he was in Last Train to Busan, and you know I won't mess his name up.
Oh, the
He
one
was-
that was slapping the shit out of that guy in the subway.
yeah, you know, like I was like, oh snap! If they got this level of talent here, this has to be a good show. So I'm enjoying it so far. You know, 4 episodes in, I'm feeling pretty good.
All right, man. It's a good show. You're going to put on a show October 23rd, UFC Fight Night Las Vegas. Thank you, Dwight, man, for the time. Always a good chat.
Hey, thanks for having me on here, man. I really appreciate it for real.